Hi, I'm Susan, and welcome to episode 40 of Susan Stanley's Stitch in Time. I've been filming tutorials and stitched stories for the Mary 1840 St. Louis project like crazy, and I feel like I haven't had a floss tube in forever, but it's only been a few weeks. So I'm so glad to be back with you, so pleased to join you again today. My hands have been busy at work on some special treasures that I will share with you later in the episode. I also have been working on my projects, so there's some surprises coming. This is going to be a really fun episode. On today's episode, well, normally on this channel I talk about cross-stitch, quilting, textiles, sewing notions and methods from the past, and then I share my projects. So today I'm going to give you a tiny life update. I'm going to introduce something called the Textile Interpreters Collection. I'm going to give you an update on Mary 1840. I'll share my WIPS. I have a work basket update. I have some haul. I have some lovely comments that will be interspersed throughout the episode. And then, of course, there were some wonderful giveaways that were presented last time, and I'll be sharing the recipients of those. And I have an update in my shop, and that's very exciting. So it's all going to be good. Life update. My eye continues to improve. Thank you to those kind souls out there who are concerned, and many of you can relate. And I'm just so grateful I can still stitch and do all the things I love. So that's one piece of it. But the really exciting life update is my son is getting married, and I'm getting a daughter. I'm bursting, really. I'm just bursting. I'm so excited. I just love this young lady. My husband and I adore her, and she's going to be a part of our lives. And it's one of those things that you just think, you just never know how thrilled you're going to be until it happens. The engagement happened when I was finishing this block that I shared with you last time. I think I was either done or almost done. And so, of course, in keeping with my tradition of wanting to make my work meaningful and connecting it to my life so that I can pass it on as a legacy, I'm going to write on the back, behind the vase, so it won't soak through, a little short snippet about that happy event. Anyway, I only had sons, so having a daughter, a future daughter-in-law, is just, I just don't know why, it just warms my heart immensely. And she is just lovely. And okay, just between you and me, when my son first introduced us to this young woman, my husband took him aside and said, "Don't you dare blow this one, because she's a treasure," and she really is. Anyway, so I'm just beyond thrilled. Now, I got to go last weekend and help her, be there while she and her mom and her sister and her best friend, I got to be a part of shopping for wedding dresses. And oh boy, was that ever fun. So it meant so much to me that she included me, and I'm just thrilled. So this quilt, Civil War Bride, even though she's not a Civil War bride, but this original designer of the Civil War Bride quilt, and I hope, she was pouring all her hopes and dreams for her future into this quilt, and so that will definitely become more of my, that will be very meaningful to me as I continue to work on it because of what's happening in my family. So thank you for letting me share this with you. I'm just delighted. This is also the time of year where I start to really become reflective, and I start to make plans for the year ahead, and I'm not going to share those with you yet. That'll be for next time. But last year was the launch of First Stitches, and many of you have joined in and you've shared your stories with me. You've hopefully kept documenting your experience. If you're doing the Mary 1840 project, you're keeping notes of like what was going on in your life during that time and how you felt. And thank you for those of you who've shared those with me and also posted them on Instagram. I think it's very heartwarming, and I am very sentimental about my stitching, and I love sharing that part with you. I want to read a quote to you from someone who is equally as sentimental, maybe perhaps even more sentimental. Her name is on Instagram, Plain Stitch Deb. She lives in the UK and she's a quilter. And I think what she says applies to any kind of handwork that you do. And I want to read this to you because I think it's beautiful. She says, "Sometimes I find this gathering overwhelming." And she's talking about gathering up her needlework. "Memories, timelines, shifting priorities, a sense of time passing. These humble piles of textiles hold innumerable emotional values. Yet the body of a quilt offers comfort and care. A quilt is a tender way to hold memories, even the sharp ones, because it wraps around, soothes, and reminds us all that time passes and bright colors fade, but memories remain." And I just thought that was beautiful. And that's really my goal in addressing this with you, is I want you to have that sentimental attachment to your work as well. I have something to share with you that I have been working on for quite some time. And I've had so many of you tell me how much you would like to build a fabric collection for finishing and for quilting. And you particularly wanted to learn how to create things with a specific time period in mind. So when I started talking last year about 1840 and collecting fabrics from that time period, I had a lot of you reach out and say, "How do you do that? Where do I get that?" And last episode, I showed you a finish of the freebie that I got Eliza Smith from the Wishing Thorn. It was the little urn cross stitch that I had stitched because of the connection to that and the Mary 1840 project. And I'm going to show you a video here that I did pop in on Instagram of where all this is leading. So let me show that right now. So here's the little fancy work drawstring bag that I made with the finish. Now this was the stitch that I did, the Eliza Smith stitch right here. And as you can see, I finished it into a little tiny fancy work bag. It's just petite and so sweet. I made it a drawstring bag, and it's just big enough to hold my scissors, my thimble, and a little pin cushion. And really, this took almost no fabric at all to put together, but it was just so fun to do. And I wanted something to help me remember that concept of a fancy work bag versus a common work bag. So as I was putting this together, I had Mary's mother in mind and how she would have constructed a work bag using possibly the scraps, because I crafted her to be a dressmaker, so she had access to scraps. That was part of the benefit of being a dressmaker, is you were typically allowed to keep the scraps. And from her business, and I originally showed the finish to a friend, and she said, when I showed this, I finished it into a little bag, and she goes, that really needs trim. And so that's where the idea of adding trim to this Textile Interpreter Collection series was born. And so each collection will have trim, because during the 1800s, upholstery, dresses, everything was trimmed, and trim was used a lot. And scraps of trim from a dressmaker's workshop would not have been wasted. They would have been used on a project as well. Pin pillow, needle book, a fancy work bag. So I imagined Mary's mother, loading this up, calling so she could do her fancy work stitching with her friends, because that was what was acceptable in society. She could take that out. Anyway, it was just so much fun. And I gave a lot of thought. I've been giving a lot of thought to this thing that I'm sharing with you, the Textile Interpreters Collection, as to what you would want for finishes, for cross-stitch finishes, and how you would want to build a scrap collection for quilting and for these finishes, particularly if you are overwhelmed. If you're a person that goes into a fabric store or quilt shop and you're overwhelmed and you don't even know where to start, and this whole concept of a collection that is based on a time period is something you're very attracted to but just can't quite get there. I want you to know where to start. So this will be an ongoing item that I will be offering to you. And this first one this time is, like you saw in the video, it's the general store collection. This is set 1 for the general store. It's based on what you might have found between 1830 and 1860, what was likely available in a general store, and then just a little bit of trim to help you really finish your projects. Now the trim is designed to work with as many of the fabrics as possible, and I think this time it works with all of them. That might not happen, but that's another way to build a collection of finishing trims. So it's available on my website right now, which is www.susanstanleystitchandtime.com, and you can treat yourself to this very first set of finishing fabrics. And you can keep these will be a nice place to store your fabric and access your fabric. And like I said, with this little finish, I didn't even use the whole piece, and they're 10 by 10 inch squares, and you can read more about it on the website if you're interested. But I hope this is an ongoing fun thing where we can explore fabrics from the 1800s and apply them to our projects. So, like I said, my hands have been busy. I've been doing lots of fun things that I'm going to share with you in a minute. But I did get back into my stitching, and I'm so grateful that my eyes are cooperating, and I could get back into my projects. So this month I did, and I will get into a better routine, but I just thought, you know what, let's just dive in and get going and see how you do. And my endurance is so much better now, so I'm thrilled. Because it's Black Sampler November, and that is a sal that Jacob of Modern Folk Embroidery introduced a few years ago, and maybe it was last year. Anyway, and so I had visited the attic and purchased this chart and Grimshaw and the linen and the floss. And so last year I had just done just these two motifs here at the bottom. And I know people have finished this, and you know, I hope it's inspiring to see others working on a project that maybe perhaps other folks have finished, because we all have to start somewhere, and we all have to take one stitch at a time. So I got a little bit across, and I went up, and I started doing the numbers, and you know what, I was shocked. I really enjoyed doing these numbers, and I'm having to start and stop each number individually because I can't carry the black threads on this gorgeous Russian tea cake. And so, and I am using Noir, a Versoix Noir. I wanted that strong contrast. This Russian tea cake is yummy. It almost has, I don't know, I felt like it had kind of a blush to it when anyway, I've just enjoyed stitching it on it so much. And there is something incredibly comforting about just doing one color. And maybe it's the Quaker motifs too, because they're really balanced and they make sense, and you're not having to start and stop, and it's nothing like confetti stitching, that's for sure. So anyway, I made a little more progress. Now this one's going to be hard to put down. I'm going to keep stitching on this until the end of the month, but it is going to be hard to put down because I have enjoyed it so much. This motif in particular started to feel like, it just felt like black work to me, and it was lacy with the open squares and just the design of it. So it's been a lot of fun. So I'm stitching that, like I said, on Russian tea cake, which is a 37 count linen, which is working really well for me. And it's just been a super pleasant stitch. And that's Anne Grimshaw. It's a Quaker sampler from the Scarlet Letter. All right, I did give Hannah Lancaster a tiny bit of attention. Here's Hannah. I started her in honor of 1840, or just as a way of embracing 1840. And I just poke away. I have my hands in a lot of things. So I'm stitching Hannah on Fuller's Teasel, which is 38 count, and I did my own Soie d'Alger conversion, and I will be posting that on my website because I have had a lot of people ask for it. If you message me, I've had people ask for it, and I've given that to people who've messaged me. I will post that, but if you are anxious to get started and want to kit up this project, please just message me and I'll happily share that. So here's what I have so far. I've got the border done, and I do like doing the border. Here, that's not working. I like doing the border because I use it as guide points. I count it again. I'm really careful, and with all these little indentations, I mean, I'm very confident that this is accurate. I had somebody concerned that if you did your border and you were off and made a mistake, then it's going to throw the entire thing off. Well, it matched up amazingly, and so I guess we'll see. But it's so far so good, working out just fine. And likely if I get to the middle and there's a big issue with, maybe I've counted wrong, or one of these lozenges indentations is off, I'll just make it work. So I did a bunch of fill-in work because that was good when my eyes were still recovering, and then I did this tree up here at the top. And I like I've said before, I'm happy for me with the combination of Soie d'Alger and Legacy 37-38 count, because I like the way the stitches fill in. I like the way I'm not fighting with the floss and the linen, that I can get the needle through easily, and with my vision, it's working out great. Now, I apologize that these are not pressed. I don't like to stress my fibers and add heat for each episode, so I do apologize in advance, and that's just how it's going to be. Now when you see it finished, it'll be, washed, pressed, and beautiful. But oh, I just love her, and she's part of the Porcupine collection. And of course, yeah, I want to stitch all of the Porcupine collection, but that's Hannah. Hopefully, I will give her a lot more attention this year, the rest of this year, and then I know I will still be stitching on her next year. And then I almost hesitated to show this to you because I've just done almost nothing on it, but I purchased this from the attic when it was their sampler of the month, and now this month they're honoring it's a GGR chart. It's MT 1810. And this month they're honoring her. It's her birthday. She's 90. And I just think it's so beautiful. And even if I just do the bottom band on this, the birds, I'm just looking forward to it so much. And they do have a conversion for hand-dyed silks, Soie 103, Soie Surfine, and Soie d'Alger. And so I purchased it from the attic, and I got their conversion. And if you're interested in that, you can get that, call them and get that from them. And I'm using Legacy Fuller's Teasel because this is just my happy combination. And I've just done, a very, very, let's see here, a very, very teeny tiny bit right here. But I wanted to document, or just say that, I was participating in Gigi's birthday, and here are the threads. And they're gorgeous. It's a very, very appealing palette to me. So I know Contented Needleworker Kim is already into the bird, and people are making great strides with this. I had no business even starting it, but I did just because, and because I wanted to, and so I did. So I didn't get much done, but it's fun. I want to show you a couple of quilts. One of them is my elongated hexagon quilt. I just added a little bit to this, and if you've watched me, you've seen it, and it's growing. I'm gonna have to put it behind me at some point. I'm starting to add this pink round. Okay, so that's going to go all the way around. And this is a hand-pieced project, and I'm building it as I go. And like I talked about earlier, this is from my scrap collection. It's fabrics, lots and lots and lots of fabrics to give you this look of an old quilt, of a quilt where the pieces came from 100 dresses, right? So that's what I've touched a little bit. this month. So I'm actually, you know, I'm getting back into it, so it's good. And then I have this little doll quilt to share with you. This is a courthouse steps. I can get back far enough for you to see the whole thing. It's done all in madder colors, and madder was a plant that produced this kind of reddish burnt umber dye. It also produced, you know, some kind of eggplant colors and peachy colors, but needless to say, this is very fall and kind of festive. And I put this toile on the back. Now, some of you, I bet, noticed, and yes, I did make a big mistake. Now, I had just, you know, I'm just drafted up this block myself. You can see that the center in this block in the middle of the quilt is much larger than these centers. And oh yes, it's a different shade of red. Well, I was sewing merrily along, and this is a lot of repetitive sewing, chain piecing, and I was sewing all these little blocks. I had cut these red centers, you know, about half the size they were supposed to be. I put the blocks together, and I had this one from the one in the center from I don't know when. And I went, when I got them all together, I looked and I said, oh, well, I guess, wow, I really, really, really severely reduced that. And I thought, you know what? It's so cute. I'm not going to get rid of them. They're darling. Anyway, so you know what? I made it work. I adjusted the size, I adjusted the dimensions on the center one and just worked them all together and made this kind of my little oopsie quilt, but I'm really happy with it. The last thing I worked on was a little bit more on the next Civil War bride block. And last time I showed you, I just had started this block, and I was working on the table legs. And I was kind of giving you a little overview of how to back baste. Well, I had drawn the table legs according to the pattern. This is what the pattern looks like. And I don't know if you can tell, but these legs they're not consistent. And for some reason, that just really, really bugged me. I'm frequently, like I said on Hannah, if there's something off, I'm going to make it work. On cross stitch, if a little girl does, you know, a letter above a word because she didn't count right and it's not fitting, I just find that charming and interesting, and I typically don't fix it. Well, why I felt like this needed to be fixed, this was actually traced from the original quilt. I thought, I don't know, it just bothered me. So I had to redraw and rebaste all the legs, but I got the legs on, I got the table on, the table's top and the tablecloth. And instead, this bottom part here was originally done with the turkey stitch, so there was embroidery on this. And I just wanted, I don't know, I just wanted a subtle difference between the top of the tablecloth and the bottom. And so I chose this striped fabric, and I did not do the turkey stitch or turkey work. Or single knot tufting was also, I guess, either another name for that or another option for what you could use in your embroidery there. So now I've back basted this bottom section, which is the floor. And if you look really closely, and I hope you can see that, you can see my basting lines are in white thread. And I've got my needle here, and I've got my thread. And I will cut a few stitches of the white basting thread out and take my needle and turn the fabric under, and it will turn under beautifully on that basted line because now the fabric kind of has been trained that's a fold line. And it's really amazing how that works. And then I will applique that section down onto the background, and then I'll go ahead and trim a few more basting stitches and take my needle and turn the fabric under. You can also use a toothpick for that, but turn that fabric under and applique it down and just keep going until I'm done. So I'm almost done with the bottom half of this block. And you can trim your fabric back as well. You can see that, I have about a little over 1/4 inch. I don't need that much, but I've just left it so it doesn't get frayed and messy. So that's what my fingers have been busy doing, and some other things too. So, every episode I like to talk a little bit about early work baskets or the tools that were in the early work basket, and this seems to kind of have been the focus for this year. I do talk more extensively about a lot of this on my Stitch Stories episodes, but they're purely this. They don't include stitching. But this year, if you've been following me, I've been really focusing on 1840 and early sewing methods and materials. And of course, one of them is the work basket and the little fancy work baskets that I showed earlier, and the contents that were usually contained in these work baskets and what their uses were. And I want to continue that and as I move into other things, but I do think exploring a work basket is just fun, and we've really not reached the bottom of it yet, so I will continue to share that with you. But I don't have a lot to tell you today, other than I want to encourage you to go over to a podcast called Haptic and Hue, and I'm sure many of you have already heard of this. I will link the name of it below. This episode in particular talks about a place in England, Whitelands College in London, where sewing methods were taught and extraordinary samplers were made by young women, and it was first set up in 1841. So that's kind of my time period. Now, if you've watched my Stitch Stories episode on how children learned to sew in 1840s, in Missouri, in St. Louis, little Mary was likely and very probably taught the Lancastrian method, and that's something you can learn more about on that episode. But I want to encourage you to listen to Haptic and Hue because it just reinforces and gives a little bit of a different perspective on how children were taught to sew. And these were worldwide methods. These people were taught these methods, these young ladies, and then they were sent around the globe and taught. And I think you'll find it very interesting. Of course, her productions, the Haptic and Hue productions, are incredibly professional and well done. This is Series 5, Episode 44, and I will link that below. I really strongly encourage you to go over there and take a listen. And if you haven't listened to this Stitched Stories episode on how little Mary likely learned to sew, please listen to that as well. I also wanted to share with you some haul, so let me get that out. I have been working towards figuring out a way to make my applique block more portable within my own home even. And I decided I needed some kind of stitcher's tray so that I could carry all of the bits and bobs, all the little pieces and parts that go into the applique around and work on it in different rooms of the house and easily gather everything up. So I got on Robert LaHaye's website, and he's a master artisan and craftsman from Maine, and he's a woodworker. His woodwork is impeccable quality, and he makes shaker products in the same tradition that the early makers used. The wood is sourced locally, and each item is made by his hands. And so I was very attracted to that. And so I purchased, one of my pieces of haul is this Stitcher's tray. Now, you've seen my work basket I just showed you. It's also one of his products. And so I knew if I went to him, I would likely find something. And so this is what I've come up with. Now, you're gonna probably wonder why I like it so open and not compartmentalized. I do like it open, because I like to be able to throw my block on there and then just carry this wherever I'm going. And so the threads are here, my glasses are here. I've got my threads for applique, which now, I'm using the 103 and some Floss. I've got my pin cushion. I have my stems all ready to go, and I'll talk more about that in a future episode. And I have some leaves that I had used a prepared edge method for in there. So if I decide, something needs an embellishment or another leaf. Anyway, so I'm just really, really happy with this. It's working well for me. The work basket stays on my sewing table with all the necessities or backstock necessities, but this is something that has everything I need, and I can just carry it from room to room. If the family's watching TV, or if I'm in another room. So anyway, I'm really, really thrilled with that. And the product is beautiful, and of course it smells so good when you first open the box and get it. And then another thing I purchased was this book. Now, this book is called Neat and Tidy, and I have just begun to dive into it. And it is based on a collector. This is her written work on her collections and the purpose for these containers. And I'm kind of a container freak. I do like to contain everything and kind of organize everything and have a little place for everything. And so this book highly appealed to my sense of organization. And besides the fact that I love the time period collections that she has, of course the cover is all about shaker boxes. But, the various uses of these boxes and containers and the functionality. And many of these containers were papered on the inside. Many of them had bags that they were set into. Some of them were for sewing. Of course, I'm very attracted to that aspect of them. Some of them were for kitchen and pantry items. Some of them were for jewelry and personal items. So it's just been really interesting to just peruse, and I'm diving deeper into it, and I'll share more as I go. But I would highly recommend this book. Boxes and Their Contents Used in Early American Households by Nina Fletcher Little, and I will link this below. It's just another aspect of how things were done. All right, so along those lines, I wanted to share a comment with you that I received from Vanessa. She is participating in the 1840s, Merry 1840s St. Louis project. And I thought her comment fit in with all this today, and she allowed me to share it. And I'll just read part of it. She does say that both her biological families lived in Missouri in the 1800s, so she's very interested in some of the history that I'm diving into. And then she said, have you ever watched a YouTube channel named Early American? She cooks all kind of early American dishes from the early 1800s in a cabin. Now, her family lived in St. Genevieve, which is south of St. Louis along the Mississippi River. And if you watched the Stitched Stories episode about the Mississippi, you'll know how significant that is. And she said her biological father's family has roots in St. Genevieve and St. Louis, and her biological mother's family mostly settled in Kirksville area. And she goes on to talk about her second great-grandfather being Andrew Taylor Still, who founded the osteopath movement. And I was just so delighted to hear from Vanessa and know that this stitching was actually ringing true and connecting her to her ancestry. And I wanted to share that with you. I want to encourage you, if you have a comment or something you'd like to share with me or allow me to share with everyone, I would love to hear from you. I love knowing the folks who have connections to this project real time in their ancestry, or have other information, or, you know, just share with me your thoughts and feelings about what this experience has been like for you. I'd love to hear from you. All of my contact information is always on the YouTube, my YouTube description page, which is for my general YouTube channel. Okay, all my contact information. I frequently put it in the show notes, which is in the actual episode description below. Now, you can't only access this if you're on a device other than your TV. You cannot find this information, I don't believe, on your TV. So if that doesn't make sense, I usually post it at some point in the episode, and today I'm going to put it at the end of the episode on a page so you can freeze that page and copy all of this down. I've had people who aren't finding all that, and I want to make it really easy for you to get in touch with me. Anyway, having said that, you will need to be able to get in touch with me, because now I'm going to share the giveaways with you. And you will need to contact me either by email, and that will be in the end of this episode, or on my website contact page. You can message me through Instagram, although I've had trouble with that. I will give you my Instagram link as well. So it's all going to be at the end of this video episode. So last time we were just celebrating life and all things good and all things stitchy, and I had several giveaways, so I want to share the winners with you. So the first one was this beautiful chart called Hibernation Day, and the word was hibernation, and the winner of that is Barbara Foster 9030. Barbara Foster 9030. Barbara, get in touch with me. I need to get your information from you so I can mail this out to you. Congratulations. And another one, beautiful, beautiful chart. Manny Dodonna, Eunice Tankard Sampler, and the winner of this is Janet Howard 407. Janet Howard 407. Janet, get in touch with me so I can get this out to you. The next one was a ship for Mary, and the word was ship. And by the way, everybody's sentences were so fun. People were so creative. Some people used every single word in paragraph sentences and made up stories. It was really fun. Elizabeth Coleman 5. Okay, so ship is Elizabeth Coleman 5. This is for you. All right, and then we have 1846, which is a Maria Clark sampler, a Needlework Press, Beauty. Diane Cox 3833. Diane Cox 3833. You have won that chart. And Jane Freebairn 1850 by Victorian Rose Needle Arts. Reader 1869. Reader 1869. This is for you. So please contact me. Again, the information will be in the description box. I will put a page at the end of this video, and it is in my YouTube channel description information as well. So congratulations to you. Now, I have a little goodie for those of you who posted one of your Mary blocks completed, and I will do a few other drawings too, so keep going. If you haven't started yet or are planning to start in the winter, don't worry, you're not going to be left out of this. But I have made a little teeny pincushion out of the same fabric that was used in the scrap bag urn. And it's similar, very similar to the pincushion that I use in my tutorials, except it's using the urn fabric. And it will look so sweet with your scrap bag And this is for those of you who posted a picture of a completed block. And so the winner of this little pincushion is Mary Bolliott. Mary Bolliott, Boillat. So Mary, congratulations. Congratulations to all of you who have completed a block, and some of you much more, because it all depends on when you've started. Mary, contact me, and this little treasure is for you, and you can add it to your Mary 1840 kit, and yay. And then I just thought, you know, one person guessed how I was going to finish my little urn cross stitch into the fancy. She said, I think you're going to stitch this into a fancy work bag. And so I'm just giving her a random treasure, and I don't have it here to show you. I don't even know exactly what it is yet, but I want to send something to her. So that is Mary Ellen McGinnis 7. Said, Susan, I think you're going to make that into a fancy work bag, and I was, and so I'd like to give you a little something too. So now I'd like to share with you some shop updates, and I'm very excited to bring you this next item that I've been working on. I've been working on this with Robert LaHaye. I wanted to bring you something that has become very meaningful to me, and I hopefully to you as well, based on what I've been researching this year. And I believe this is a perfect gift for a friend or for yourself. It's something you can hang on a tree or just place next to you in your sewing chair. It's called the Peaceful Partridge, a needlework sewing basket. I'm going to build this sewing basket for you here today and show you the completion of it in a minute. I picked this partridge theme because the partridge has such meaning in needlework and in art. It signifies sacrifice, it signifies devotion and love. And so in light of the tradition of papering baskets and boxes, I papered the inside of this teeny tiny little basket. So this is the little basket, and we're going to fill the basket. And so the first thing inside the basket is this paper, which features a partridge and some fruit and leaves, some pears, some berries, some flowers. And if this isn't clear, I will insert some photos. So that's the first part of this little exquisite basket. Made by the hands of Robert LaHaye and papered by me. And then the next item that goes in your little needleworker's sewing basket is a pincushion. And these are those little guys I teased you with on Instagram. It's got a cherry fabric on the bottom to stabilize it and keep it from tipping over in your basket. And it's got 3 glass head bowen pins. It's filled with wool. And so that goes into your tiny sewing basket. And then, of course, you need a needle. And so I've created this little needle book for you. It says a gift for a friend. And there's a 28 needle inside on some luscious wool. So that goes inside your basket. And then, well, if you're going to have a needle, you must need some threads, right? So I have 2 threads. I have a Versoix red and a Versoix green that complement the beautiful paper on the inside of the basket. So that also goes in your little tiny basket. And then you need a thread waxer. So you can condition your thread. That goes inside the basket. And then a piece of vintage feather tree greenery just to spark it up, make it happy. And I'm providing you the chart so you can stitch the little needle book if you'd like. Make it into a tag, make it into whatever you'd like. I've provided several words. I've got an alphabet in there, and I've provided words like Christmas, needles, joy, Noel, peace. This is what it looks like when it's stitched up. It's just a teeny tiny little deer thing. So many creative uses for that. And if you want, now there's no linen included in the basket. It's just like that. Isn't that the sweetest little thing? I just want to leave it right like that. You could hang this on a tree. If you give it to a friend, you can, gift it however you'd like. If you want, there are a few add-ons that I have. I have these little Bowen scissors. This would be an additional purchase add-on. They fit perfectly in your little basket. And you really can be all set to go with those items. So I'm just so excited to be able to share this with you. I hope that you will either treat yourself or treat somebody dear to you and find this a treasure and kind of a way of summing up so much that we've talked about this year. They are available on my website, and there's some other goodies and treasures on there too, so please go take a look. Okay, a couple of other things that I've added into my shop because I've had people doing the 1840s project loving using the silk, and I do feel like it's an excellent option for cross stitch and quilting alike. So I've put some packets together in a Versoix Soie d'Alger and a Versoix Soie Surfine. And these are put together to help you build your color palette. And I realize some of you don't live near a needlework shop, and some of you quilters maybe don't know where to get this thread. So I've put together some affordable packs that I think are going to help you get started in your collection. And I chose colors kind of the season. I do have, you can go on the shop and get a better look, but I have in Soie Surfine and in Soie d'Alger, I'm sorry, Soie 103. I do have, did I say Soie d'Alger? I'm so sorry. I have Soie Surfine and 103. I have a light collection in either of those two options, and the options are explained on the website, but basically they're a different weight. So if you are a quilter and you're not sure, please take a look at that. I've written up detailed information on what you might prefer and why. But these are affordable, so you can try and see what you think. This one is the medium collection, offered in Soie Surfine and 103. And then I have a dark collection. So that's a good start if you're hand piecing, appliquing, and of course if you are a cross stitcher, those are good colors. And then I have three, actually four, I'm missing one, I'll grab it in a minute. One is the Matter collection, and those are kind of colors along the lines of the doll quilt I showed you earlier. Just those kind of yummy fall colors. They typically would have been dyed with Madder Plant. I have a Cheddar collection, which quilters will know that is a shade, kind of an orangey bittersweet shade, but also very usable in your cross stitch projects or your embroidery. I have a red cool collection, and I have a red warm collection, that I'll show you. Here's the red warm collection. That's also an option in the threads. I'll pop a picture in here. There will be some Lou and Sue folios making their way on to my website very soon. Today is November 15th, so if you're watching this and you want to grab one, you probably should head over there quickly. If they're not there yet, don't worry, keep checking back. I will notify everybody by Instagram. Some of you don't have Instagram and have said that you would really like a folio and project bag. So I hope this helps alert you to check it every morning, just see if there's anything up. We have a new style this time that we're offering. It's half thread and then the other side is a pocket in the folio, and then there are project bags, and this first collection, the next set that we're going to share is the Winter Songbird collection, and so I hope if you're interested that you will pop over there and grab one. If I have pictures in time, I will share them here on this floss tube. They will be appearing soon. So next time we will look at a festive sewing decoration that I hope will inspire you and excite you. I'll share with you some plans for Christmas and New Year's stitching starts, and I'll show you progress on my projects. And my binding tutorial will be coming up next month for the Mary 1840 project. So those of you who are have started this right away, got your kit right away, we'll have that. And of course, I'm going to add an end page here with all my contact information. So thank you so much for joining me today. I hope you were inspired. I hope that you learned some things, and I hope that you're stitching and doing all the things you love. So until next time, make time for stitching.